the Caledonian Elixir. Broadcasting from Glasgow, Scotland, this is the Caledonian Elixir. I'm your host, Vincent Lawler, and you can call in by calling free from the UK on 0738 745 3353. That is 0738 745 3353. The international call-in number is also available on the screen, or you can click on the link and follow the simple instructions. And whether you agree or disagree, it's free. So click on the link, call in, and join the discussion. Or you can leave a live chat that way too. And we are broadcasting live right now to Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble, I believe. So, to everyone finding us for the first time, we're a burgeoning podcast call-in show covering everything from politics to the paranormal, uncensored and told with wit and true grit, taking calls and guests. Now, today we have a guest, James Hake, who hosts a live and podcast call-in show called The Hake Report. He's also a producer for the Jesse Lee Peterson show. Amazing. Hake's show focuses on news, politics, and religion. And as there's a lot of news and politics that is coming out of the US right now that I want to get my head around, I thought he would be a good guest to bring on and have a discussion with. Plus, I'm a viewer of the JLP network myself. So, alas, could you bring on Hake?
Vincent, can you hear me?
Hi, James. How you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate you.
Hi. So how are you doing this ungodly hour?
Doing fine. Yeah. What time is it over there? 1 a.m. now?
Yeah, it's just about 1 a.m. And for all those who are listening over here, it's Tuesday morning, and in sunny California, where Hake is, I believe it's 7.
It's 5 right now.
It's
5
5.
and the sun is still out, actually.
Right. So I've got a friend in California, and I've did shows with him, and I get the time zones wrong all the time. I think it's because New York is 2 or 3 hours behind you. Am I correct?
Yeah, ahead of us. They're 3 hours ahead of us, New York is.
See, hey, that's because I've been up for 18 hours straight. I'm getting it all wrong. Right. So, first of all, I've noticed the disclaimer at the start of your show nowadays. So I would
Yep.
just like to know beforehand, are the views of Hake tonight on the Caledonian Elixir representative of Hake's actual views?
I hope so, but I do disclaim them because sometimes I'm misunderstood, or I may say something that I don't actually. I come back later. I'm like, what was I thinking? So I suppose I do disclaim them, but I'll do my best to express what I actually think, as I tend to. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to explore subjects where we both agree and disagree. And as I alluded to earlier in my intro, I've been a viewer of the Jesse Lee Peterson show for probably around 8, 9 years. And I've been a viewer of your show for a few years too. For my audience, could you just describe your show in a very general way?
I was on Asmodeur's show. I don't know if you're familiar with Asmodeur. He was our resident historian for some time. He was a white radical, if you will, but he really appreciated Jesse's message about anger, and he really came to agree with JLP on that, and he really liked me. and he described my show as news from a Christian alpha male perspective. And it's American, of course. I don't know much really about history or geography or all that stuff, but I grew up a pretty standard millennial Southern California guy, although I am white and Christian. So I'm a little bit more conservative than the Hispanics and Asians and definitely the blacks around here. And so I came across JLC and realized that politics is just about right and wrong. It isn't personal. It isn't something to get all up in your ego about.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I view. That's what my show is about: is politics, religion, relationships, a little bit, people, how people think. So that's what I like about.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
By the way, just in case you're wondering why I'm wearing the sunglasses at this hour of the night, I have one of these halo lights that are beaming directly onto my face and they're straining my eyes. So I'm wearing glasses not for aesthetics, rather for comfort. So, just in
Fair
case you're
enough.
wondering.
I actually
So
haven't questioned it. I'm used to seeing different hosts and people and personalities wear sunglasses, so it didn't occur to me actually.
you have a guest, Third Rail with Omar, who regularly
Yep.
comes on. Yeah. Now, you're knee deep in it over there, in that every day or almost every day you're taking callers and you're commenting on political and social issues. And one issue that is practically big everywhere is the allegations regarding the Epstein files. And I heard your conversation last week with Omar, and I like that guy, and I found that interesting. But before I get to my question, could you just roll on video 3 for me?
So now, by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. I mean, it's just you cannot see it any other way. So I just got to the office. I'm gonna go throw up actually, and this only happens every few years when something really bad happens or something. I mean, I'm physically gonna puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now.
Could you do one more short clip? 4.
A lot of people owe Elon Musk an apology because Elon Musk said, I believe in June, during his split with Trump, just weeks before the war in Iran began, Elon Musk, if you recall, he said publicly, the reason Trump won't release the files is because he's in them. Does anybody remember this? I don't know about you, but I feel like that was memory hold. I feel like nobody is talking about that. Nobody has.
So, you know who those guys are, Fuentes and Jones.
Yeah.
And their views are interesting on that. Do you think there's a split in MAGA or the right over the controversy involving Epstein and the allegations involving Trump and Epstein?
What was your question?
Do you think there's a split in MAGA or in the right regarding the controversy with Epstein and Trump?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a split, at least for the time being, between Trump and the Trump faithful and the people who are real interested and passionate about this Epstein situation. And it's interesting because there's a lot of guys who are really into this topic whom I really admire. Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones. There's another guy, Mike Cernovich, who actually was instrumental in getting a lot of the files released via Freedom of Information Act. And I don't know where Cernovich stands on what Trump has been doing and saying about it, but I'm still with Trump. I totally like those guys. I'm not accusing them of anything. I don't actually know everything about what they're talking about, but in some cases it's just it is exaggeration. And so
What's exaggeration?
In the sense that I don't think that Nick Fuentes really thinks that Trump is compromised by Epstein and in those Epstein files. I don't really believe that he thinks that. It seems to me that he's just hamming it up, and he's right that we shouldn't have, a lot of us hated Elon Musk for saying, "Oh, Trump is in those Epstein files. Have a good day, Donald." Because Elon Musk I don't believe that he really knew anything. I think Elon Musk was just getting a pot shot in on Trump when he was having a disagreement with Trump about something. It seemed like Elon Musk didn't want Trump to do anything with the budget, and Trump was doing something with the budget that he didn't like with the Doge. So
See, what I'm aware of is that Alex Acosta, the former Labour Secretary under Trump, who alleged that Epstein was intelligence, and then you have Stephen Hoffenberg, who is serving an 18-year sentence over a $450 million Ponzi scheme. Now, in an article published by Rolling Stones, this guy Hoffenberg, Epstein's former partner, claimed that Epstein, ran in intelligence circles. And then there's the Maxwell family connection angle. And just, to highlight how important, say, Robert Maxwell is in this and how his relationship to Mossad is quite obvious to people who are well informed in this. But in Maxwell's funeral, the former Israeli intelligence head was present, and so was the former Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir. They both attended. Now, when you've got guys like that eulogizing you at your funeral, you're obviously connected, and that's not even mentioning. I think it was the Wall Street Journal's recently reporting that Trump was in the Epstein files, and strangely, Trump, he didn't sue or anything, which really gets me thinking there must be something to that. So with all that said, with all those connections or those implications there, does that bother you that Trump is connected with Epstein in some way?
Not at all, because Epstein was a rubbing elbows with rich and powerful people type of a guy. He was a billionaire, I believe. He bought that island, that little St. James Island in the Caribbean. And he was a big time Democrat donor and Harvard University donor. And he was taking pictures with everybody and friendly with everybody. You know how Jewish people are. I don't know if you know Jewish people, but I've gotten to know a bunch of Jewish people. And they're just very, no matter whether they're on the big scale or just businessmen over here, they are very glad-handing, making connections with people. And so that's
during that conversation with Omar last week, you had a caller, and the caller said even if Trump's name was on the Epstein file list, he would still vote for him again. I think you said you would too. Am I right there? You would vote. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Because I don't think that Trump did anything wrong. I think what happened with people said that he borrowed Epstein's plane when his plane was broken down, and he flew from New York to Florida, that he didn't go to the island. But even if he went to the island, doesn't mean that he did anything wrong. And even if he did something wrong, slept with a 17-year-old or something way back then, has nothing to do with his presidency. You can see that the man he loves the country, and he's fighting for the country, and he's dealing with real things. And I don't see how it has anything to do with his presidency. He's like our best president that we've had in my lifetime, or at least since I've been paying attention. I've only been paying attention since W/Obama, but he may have been better than Reagan, who was there when I was born. So
I do agree that most of my friends too were swept up in that over here, and most people I know support Donald Trump. And I felt nothing when Bush was elected. I felt nothing when Obama was elected. I felt nothing was when Clinton was elected, but I really did want Donald Trump to be
Nice.
elected and re-elected because I felt that he was holding truth to power, and he was basically calling it how it is. And
Yeah.
especially when he was shot in Pennsylvania, that was a powerful moment with the American flag billowing in the background and him raising his fist with blood trickling down his face. That was a powerful cinematic, image, and it will live in history. So I'm pleased that he is president and not Kamala or Biden, but
Yeah.
I'm concerned if he is on the flight list. I have to admit, because if that is the case, there is always a possibility that there is a level of maybe I don't know if I want to say blackmail, but there's a possibility of it. And it is what it is. And I don't have any hopes that it will be exposed, the flight list. I don't think the DOJ over there or any outfit of government will release the Epstein flight list. I don't think it's going to happen. But
I think you're probably right about that. There is a lot that is already out there, and if you look at the work of there's this journalist who's really not impressed with the theory that there was widespread. He thinks he's open to the possibility, but he doesn't really think that there's a lot of evidence to support the notion that it's a widespread child sex / blackmail ring. I could give you the guy's name, but I don't want to promote it without your permission. But
well, you can put the name out there if you want.
Michael Tracy, Tracey, Michael Tracy. He's a bit of an anti-war guy. He's not too impressed with Trump. He doesn't like Trump that much, but he's kind of an even keel type of a guy. It's interesting. I think of him as an American journalist. He's not Jewish. So he's not like off the deep end liberal, but he is pretty liberal. He's anti-war. He was like kind of for Bernie for a while, but he's just throughout his history as a journalist, since I've known him, he debunked the Russiagate thing. Of course, he was early on that, and he sort of debunked the Me Too type of stuff a little bit. And I see, based on him and based on other people's behavior, that this is kind of a Me Too type of a thing. That's how the media is treating it. You guys are talking about blackmail, and our government is maybe under the influence of. You seem to be thinking Mossad or somebody, or Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big viewer of Alex Jones' show and the whole InfoWars organization, like Owen Scheuer and get those kind of guys. They've been harking on about Epstein for years and going on about the Mossad angle or this Central Intelligence Agency, how it was a big blackmail thing, and I feel like it's more than as what you alluded to. I don't think it's really feminism or anything to do with that. I think it's more about putting a spotlight on the elites and the corruption and the degeneracy, and I think that's what's really concerning in regards to Trump, because Trump was the one who was apparently calling out the swamp, calling out the elite, and if he's actually knee deep in shit himself, then that's bad for everyone, because he was supposed to be the one who was fighting against that, so to speak. And if he's implicated in it, then who do you turn to? That's the thing. They call it the uniparty, don't they? How the Democrats and Republicans, they've got the big donors behind them. And Donald Trump was someone different. He wasn't a everyday politician. He was from the business world, and he was coming in to shake things up and, change it. And if his name is on the Epstein flight list, to me, it is concerning, and I think it's disappointing for everyone. But as you said, what do you do? Do you turn to Kamala Harris? Do you turn to Joe Biden? I mean, those people were brain dead. They were puppets.
I honestly don't see. I don't even see how you guys think that he could be on that list. I don't see how. Like like we don't even know that a list exists. They say, oh, there is no client list. And so if somebody went on a flight to over there, that it doesn't mean that they did anything with underage girls.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, true. Even if they're on the flight list, it doesn't mean that anything illegal was,
Right.
You're right. But the reason I think there could be some merit to the fact that he is in the flight list is because the Wall Street Journal reported it, and Trump didn't sue him. Yet he sued Rupert Murdoch's paper last week over the
birthday card.
Yeah, that was it.
Or whatever it was.
Why didn't he sue the Wall Street Journal?
I don't know. And just because he was on some list, it doesn't mean anything, I honestly, it doesn't even concern me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because I look at how Trump is. We have a lot of degeneracy, and we have a lot of pushing of evil stuff on children across the world. It's pushed by NATO. It's pushed by America. It's pushed by Democrats, and many Republicans have fallen in with it. Trump himself, he was a New York liberal, so he's fine with the gays and he's fine with transgenders. Bruce or Caitlyn, whatever, Jenner going into the women's bathroom in Trump Tower. He's fine with that, but he's not one of these guys who's pushing like Biden. You mentioned Biden for 8-year-olds if they feel like they're transgender to turn the transgender thing. He's not underhandedly pushing gays into the military like Clinton did, like Obama did, big time. He's not pushing the racial division stuff. He doesn't. Nothing about his persona seems controlled, and a lot of people are reading into how he's reacting to this story, or non-story. Really, I think of it as a non-story.
Right.
And they're reading into it like he's acting guilty. But if you just pause and just wait and see, then you'll realize that he's just being his normal, typical self. You'll notice that he never jumped on the bandwagons against men who were accused of raping women. Mike Tyson, he saw that Mike Tyson back in the 80s or 90s was railroaded because some woman went up to his room at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he got convicted of rape, and he spent time in prison for that. He lost a big part of his career over that. Mike Tyson did. And he has been a man, and a man doesn't go with hearsay or gossip or speculation. And unlike some of his staff, like his staff, I don't know about Dan Bongino so much, but Kash Patel was like, Mr. Biden people, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are. But that's not how Trump ever was. Kash was just an excitable, silly person. But Trump is like been a mature, knows how this game is. Take down men with sexual innuendos and sexual fake scandals, because women and people who listen to gossip and think about things in that way will fall for it. But Trump has always been very pro-Israel. I mean, you could say, with these donations and things like that, he has more influence than not. But basically, no matter what, anybody who becomes a leader in a country is going to have to work with Jewish people and with Israel, because they have a whole...
Wait a minute, hey, the fact that you brought up Israel, right? That's what I was going to ask you about next. So another topic, right, that gets brought up a lot in your show, especially as of recent, is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians and the alleged genocide that's taking place right now. So what's your views on that?
I don't have a strong opinion as to whether Israel is right or wrong in their attacking on Hamas and all of the casualties, the other casualties, children, and then people getting sick and starving and stuff. I think there's a whole lot of blame to go around with what's going on over there. So I like Bibi in terms of his persona, Benjamin Netanyahu. He always liked Obama. Oh, no, he did not like Obama.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean in terms of his persona?
His persona,
What do you like about
the way that he presents himself. you know how you present yourself as manly, dignified, not swayed by politics and stuff like that. That's kind of how I see Bibi. Bibi, Putin, and Trump, they are just manly, and they don't come off as quite as phony as these other politicians. Now, they may do stuff that you disagree with. Bibi may go too hard on the Palestinians. I don't know. And Putin may go too hard on those Ukrainians. I don't know. But those are just unshaken. Just their persona is just a not this fake kiss up politician thing. Maybe if I paid closer attention, I would see it. But I think that he likes Trump. He doesn't like Obama. And so that's another simple-minded way that I see Bibi. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm skeptical, and I've heard this. You've got a lot of callers that have different views on this, and the reason I'm skeptical that it's just a war between Hamas and the IDF is that, or that there's just but I think it could potentially actually be a genocide. And the reason I'm saying that isn't just because the ICJ, which is the International Court of Justice, is investigating it for crimes of genocide, nor is it due to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, having an arrest warrant for Bibi Netanyahu, or members of the Israeli government, such as Smotrich, calling for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. But it's rather when I hear, say, reported from organisations like Oxfam that the IDF are targeting wells, water sites, sanitation, desalination plants. And as you know, desalination plants are responsible for removing salt out of the water so it's drinkable. Or when they blockade food for over 70 days. And when the World Health Organization have came out and said that 95% of all hospitals are either destroyed or damaged. And to me, or one more thing, that over 85% of all structures have been leveled. So to me, if it's a war between the IDF and Hamas, why is the IDF leveling all the civilian infrastructure?
I don't know. I don't know if they are purposely doing that in order to just get rid of all the Palestinians, or either drive them out or kill them or whatever, and then just take over that place because it's been destroyed. That would be a whole lot more convenient for Israel, you can imagine, because those people being there has been a problem for them for a long time because they've just had problems, and then generations and generations of problems. It's like a feud between like the Hatfields and the McCoys here in America. It got to where they didn't even know why they were fighting. They were just fighting. And over there, they have their reasons why they're fighting. So I can imagine that it would be very tempting, and some may want to do it, like ethnically cleanse that area, just put them away.
And I know you don't like using those words. I know you don't like using the genocide word, and I know why you don't like using the genocide word. I know there are certain words that you think are buzzwords, so to speak. To me, I'm Scottish, British, I'm European, and you're American, and so I don't have affiliation to Israel or the Palestinians. But there is no war in the modern day where the military destroyed anywhere near as much as 85% of the civilian infrastructure. And to me, it looks to me as if we're trying to ethnically cleanse the population. And that's just a line that, that I think once you cross, you can't go back. Israel can ethnic cleanse an entire population and think the rest of the world's just going to get on with them. It's not good for the Jewish population. It's not good for Israel. It's definitely not good for the Palestinians. And if you're a Trump supporter, I don't think it's good for Trump. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, who doesn't think this is cool. And, personally, I just think what will be, will be. I think we will expel them, but I think it's the wrong thing to do.
I don't know. I can't say. People say that Hamas has stationed themselves in those hospitals or around those hospitals, and I don't know if that's true or not. I have heard that they use human shields. I've heard that Israel has used Palestinians as human shields, or Hamas as human shields. I'm sure that both sides are doing a lot of wrong, and in a war, there's always going to be wrong done. I don't think that people who are judging Israel, I don't see how they have a place to stand, really, because they're not in that situation that Israel's in. So,
But just imagine this, right? So you get a
Yeah.
spokesman for the IDF that say we had to destroy this hospital because there were Hamas soldiers or fighters or terrorists, whatever term you want to give them, identify them as, in that
Yeah.
hospital. Okay, that can happen. So why blow up wells? Why blow up water tankers? Why blow up desalination plants? Why blockade all food for over 70 days? That doesn't destroy Hamas. Hamas still exists. What doesn't exist is the civilian infrastructure. It doesn't look like me that we're fighting Hamas. I mean, Hamas is a bunch of guys essentially right now with balaclavas over their head running about with Kalashnikovs. You know, and the IDF have got F-35s, atomic bombs and Reaper drones, and they've got the most advanced military technology, America can sell. And
Right.
again, Hamas is this ragtag army that apparently is hiding in tunnels, so we got to blow up desalination plants and starve an entire population. I'm just not cool with that, man. And you get a lot of callers saying similar things, but I just feel the whole thing's a mess. It's a mess.
I believe Trump wants Bibi to just get it over with and get it done and finish the job. But as you indicated, Hamas is very squirrely. I'm surprised it's lasted this long. I guess they have to be very kind of careful because there are supposedly like still hostages who may be alive that they're trying to get back. It's a crazy situation. I don't really have a strong opinion, honestly. I don't know what's going on there. I wish both sides well.
Yeah, I do want to move on to something less heated and less controversial, where we see more eye to eye on. That's just two subjects there that I know you get a lot of callers on, and they're two really big topics. I mean, even Trump right now, he's in Turnberry in Scotland, and he was getting questions right, left, and centre about, So
I had a thought today. I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on, and I'm not like a military guy. I don't know tactics. But two questions or two ideas for you. Can you blame them for wanting those people gone from that area?
What people?
The Palestinians, all of them, gone from that area. So they just take over that area. If you were Israel, would you just want to take over that place and never have a problem again, ideally? You still there?
Yeah.
Not hearing. I'm not hearing. Oh, somebody's talking. I'm hearing on the screen, but I'm not hearing it through my headphones.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
There was a woman talking through. Oh, you know what? No, never mind. I'm just.
Yeah, there was a woman talking. She's my partner at the moment.
Oh yeah, I wasn't hearing her voice. I heard it through the stream. I turned up the volume on the stream, and I heard something just now.
Can you still hear me?
What's that?
Can you still hear me just as well as you could?
Yeah, I can hear you. I haven't heard her through my headphones here though.
You asked me a question about can I identify with the feelings of the Israelis, and that they want to remove the Palestinians or the Gazans. And
I don't even know if that's what they feel, but that's what I would imagine that somebody would want.
Can you say that again?
I don't even know if that's what that they feel. One of them did kind of make that indication that he wants to clear out that area, one of the guys in Israel, and just take it over. Can you imagine that would be tempting to do?
It would be tempting to do if you were psychopathic. Why would you want to cleanse an entire population? There's no need to cleanse an entire population unless you want to create a supremacist state of Israel.
Your audio is really bad right now. It's coming really bad.
Right. You can. Could you turn?
I can barely understand you, actually.
Wait a second. Give me a second.
I don't know what's going on. Like I can kind of hear you, and then but it's really muffled and underwater.
Hey, give me one more minute.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Is that changing? No, it's not changed.
At the beginning of when you talk, it sounds fine, but as you talk further, it sort of goes into like a muffled thing.
Right. The only thing I can think of is refreshing. I don't know. All I know is when you left
There
the.
must be some looping going on or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can do that.
Is it because is there like some ever since? So that girl was talking to me. That woman was talking to me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You sound a little bit far away.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's back to normal. That's perfect.
Right, I sorted that out. There was another window that appeared, so there were two.
Oh, okay.
Playing at the same time. I don't know why.
Okay.
Sorry. Could you just ask that same question again?
Yeah. So, can you relate it to the notion you mentioned that they seem to be wanting to just drive everybody out? If I were Israel, I would look at Palestine, that Gaza area, and I would be like, these are a problem people. Why don't we just take over this whole area? I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's what my temptation would be if I were Israel.
Let me ask you, Hake, what would be the benefits of doing that for Israel?
So that you don't have a problem with those people anymore. Because they've had those people firing rockets at them all the time, and you have to like babysit them and feed them water and all that stuff. Like they're kind of having to keep them as like a second-class citizen subset and a whole bunch, and most of them just hate them, and they hate each other. So why not just take over that area?
Okay. Now, as you know, Israel is surrounded by its Arab neighbours. There's a lot more Arabs and Muslims in the Middle East than Israelis.
Palestinians too. The Palestinians outnumber them.
So if, for example, Israel was to expel the Palestinians into the Sinai Desert and get rid of them, how do you feel Israel's neighbours would feel or respond to that?
It would be a tough PR battle, which is what they're experiencing right now. Public relations, it doesn't look good to a lot of people who are judgmental of them.
So you have to think, what is in the best interests of Israel? and the Jewish people around the world. I mean, listen, I don't know what it's like in California, but over here in Europe, and I've been all around Europe in the last few years, such as Germany, France, the Netherlands. I lived in the
Yeah.
Netherlands for years too. Israel does not have a lot of support. And the
Right.
longer this is going on, I know a lot of people who had very Israeli sentiments, and I don't know anyone that supports Israel in this conflict anymore. After October 7th, there were people that felt that was obscene and it was horrible, and that
Yeah.
Israel had to do something to prevent anything like that from taking place again. But again, when you kill, maim, destroy tens of thousands of children, it doesn't look like a war. It looks like a campaign of extermination. And we shouldn't act, in my opinion anyway, like Israelis did over 2,000 years ago in the Bible. We should act like 21st century Americans. We should act like 21st century Europeans and understand there's rules of engagement. And if you break those rules of engagement and you do some really bad shit to children, I mean, the reason you don't target children is because you don't want your children being targeted. So the moment you start killing women and children, there'll be consequences to that. And Israel doesn't want that. So the best thing is coexistence, in my opinion, between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
I would agree that the best thing would be to have peace somehow. I don't know that there's been any proof that Israel is targeting the children, or whether they're just collateral damage, which is what happens with war. I'm not for war, and I like that Trump is a man who wants peace, and he's sought peace at every place that he can. There's crazy stuff going on between Thailand and Cambodia right now. It's not as deadly as here in with this Israel and Hamas thing and the Palestinians. But I just don't buy into the notion that Israel are these war criminals necessarily. Maybe they are, but I am resistant to being moved by the hype, because there's a lot of hype on many sides against Israel, and there are people who are critical of the Jewish people and of the Jewish influence in all of our countries, and I understand that, but they fall into siding with the Palestinians and treating the Palestinians like victims and wishing for Iran or some of these groups to just destroy Israel. And that's not a good thing. And that's not going to be good for our countries either. Because if you think that it's bad that Jewish people and they're liberal, they're kind of anti-American and anti-Scotland maybe. If you think that it's bad that they're influential right now,
cares about Scotland, take. We stopped caring about Scotland like 300 years ago.
Nice. If you think that they're bad right now, the people who are replacing them, the anti-Israel people who are replacing them, the Muslims and the atheists and whoever else, they're going to be even worse against whites, against Christians, against civilization. Honestly,
do you think it's a civilizational issue or a racial issue? For example, because Israelis, many Israelis, especially modern day Israelis, they have settled from the United States. They have arrived from Western European countries and North American countries. Or if, for example, the first 30 years of Israel's existence, most people that settled in Israel were from Eastern Europe, from Ukraine, from Russia, from Poland. In fact, I think seven of Israel's prime ministers were of Ukrainian descent.
Wow. I didn't know it was Ukrainian. That's interesting.
Well, definitely Eastern European. And
so that's why that country is so civilized, and the rest of the countries, well, I don't know how. I honestly don't know many of these Muslim countries, but Israel is considered to be a nicer place for people to stay. I get that there's a lot of propaganda about Christians getting spit on, but there's a lot more Christians, I think, in Israel than in these other countries.
Christianity is an important part of your upbringing, and how you see yourself. So when I don't know if you heard this, but Israel targeted and destroyed the last Christian church and Catholic chapel in the Gaza Strip. It was the same chapel that Pope Francis used to call every day to make sure that it wasn't destroyed. Israel in the last couple of weeks have targeted and destroyed that chapel. To me,
Well, according to what I heard, I think Bibi mentioned that it was an errant munition. It wasn't targeted, but it may have been targeted, or maybe it was an accident. But I don't really have an attachment to that. What do you say about that?
well, I don't know how Israel, with the precision and the technology that they have and had, for example, they were capable of putting explosives in the pagers of every member of Hezbollah and detonating them in Lebanon and targeting apparently the military chiefs of the Iranian government. Yet they keep on making these mistakes of dropping bombs in churches and hospitals and chapels. I don't get it. One minute you're the best military in the Middle East, the next minute you can't help it but drop bombs on churches.
I don't know. It could be. There's a whole lot of possible explanations to that. I think that it could be the leadership saying secretly to do it. It could be guys who hate Christians who are in the military over there, because there are a lot of Christian haters everywhere, right? In the Israeli military doing it. It could be, in Vietnam, when Americans were in Vietnam, there were sometimes stories, perhaps, of American young men just going crazy on innocent families and children and women and just killing them all, and just because gone crazy with the war. So
it was the British during the Boer War that invented the concentration camp that is synonymous with the Third Reich, but it is the British Empire that invented it.
Yeah. So anything is possible. I'm not taking that away. So I don't really have. I'll tell you one thing about the Palestinian Christians. I don't know of any that are like. I don't know of many, but the ones that I do know of tend to be like anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-Christian Christians. They come over here. There's a Palestinian Christian who this Muslim socialist who's trying to be mayor of New York endorsed for some position, and he's just this social justice guy. So I don't know what the quality of these Christians are. It's not that I don't want them killed, but I don't think of them as necessarily my Christian brothers. I wish all people well. I don't want them getting themselves killed or getting killed or killing each other. But I just don't really have an attachment to, they killed this. I mean, they bombed this church. That whole area is bombed out. What's good is a church in a bombed out area, you know? You know what I mean?
Sure, but a church is supposed to be a sacred place. And, a place you wouldn't... So, same with a mosque or a temple, you're not supposed to target these places. They're supposed to be locations where you can seek refuge. And again, I'm not...
Although not from ICE. ICE should be able to go into these churches and deport the people hiding in our churches. But that's a separate question.
There's definitely a religious Christian theme, not just in your show, but the Jesse Lee Peterson show. How much, if it's even possible to measure, how much of you is how much of your Christian perspective has been influenced by Jesse Lee Peterson?
A lot of it. In fact, the reason why I know Jesse is because of his church services. I didn't know about politics. I didn't know about YouTube. I didn't know about I didn't know that the blacks were as insane on the black issue, on their blackness. I kind of knew, but I didn't know that it was that bad until I started. And I didn't know that black on white crime was as bad as it is until I started coming to Jesse's church and listening to his radio show. So in 2007, I started coming to this church because I liked the message of, yes, you are as bad as you think, you know? Yes, you are responsible. Yes, you can have perfect peace. Yes, you can repent and turn your life around and be right and have heaven on earth. What the Bible says is actually true. Because a lot of times these Christians say, oh, you're just going to continue sinning and you're going to be broken your whole life. And that doesn't, it's not what the Bible says. The Bible says perfect peace. And it just doesn't ring true. So when he broke things down simply, that was a major eye-opening experience. And to this day, there's eye-opening things that he says that just sparks something. Yeah.
I remember you calling yourself, what is it, a little homegrown Christian, is that?
Yeah, because he calls me that. Homegrown. So I was raised Christian with my parents, fairly conservative, white, but not into being white. We were just white. We were just normal Christians. Even they're boomers, my parents, and my siblings are Gen X. And so we were just kind of products of our environment, but still sort of raised to be kind of serious about being Christian.
Yeah, I remember you going into how the sort of media that you would listen to, watch, get into was shaped by your Christianity. But if it wasn't Christian, you wouldn't, watch it.
I was big time, for the first.
And you play some really crazy music, or you used to during your shows.
Yeah, I started getting copyright takedowns on Spotify, so I quit doing it. But I would play Christian music from my high school days and earlier and later. And so for the first 2-3 decades of my life, 2 decades definitely, I listened almost exclusively to Christian music. Sometimes I would listen to my friends' rap stuff and rock and roll and whatever, but it was Christian music, Christian this, Christian that. And yet I was sort of on my own, off on my own. I wasn't with the church crowd, so I didn't have a whole group of friends who were Christian. They were just normal people, but I was into this Christian stuff.
So did you feel alienated from the rest of your social group because there was such a Christian focus or emphasis in your life?
A little bit, but not really. There was only one moment that I can think of that I alienated myself from my friends, and or at least one of my friends, and it was because he stole something from a store where he worked, and I happened to find out about it, and I don't know what I was doing talking to my mother about it, but I somehow mentioned it to her, and she put on this guilt thing on me where if you hang around him, you can be influenced by him. And so I started taking on my mother's Christianity as opposed to just living my life. And that was one time that I alienated for at least a short time, maybe a year or so, a friend of mine who was a thief. And it wasn't anything that I actually cared about or thought it was my business to change or whatever. But that was one time where I got alienated. But no, it was just an amusing, it's kind of like my show. It's this sort of an amusing quirk of my upbringing and my personality that has hung on, and it's sort of like a conversation piece. It's not something that's seriously dividing me from people. Oh, there was one other thing that kind of alienated me from my friends was I didn't agree with Obama. I didn't agree with the gays. I didn't agree with the illegal aliens. Things like that.
Right.
I didn't agree with socialism or socialized healthcare. So those things, because I got overly thinking up in my ego, thinking it was important, fighting with people about it, that did alienate me from my friends big time, because I started posting on Facebook and fighting with them. And when you post stuff on social media, it comes off so much harsher. So that did alienate me from my friends a bit.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to speak for Jesse Lee Peterson, but I just want to know if I understand the core of his philosophy correctly. So there are three main points from what I understand, and that is that there's a spiritual order, and that's Christ over man, man over woman, and women over children, right? The
Yes,
second one is that all thoughts are lies all the time. And lastly, that you have to practice a silent prayer. I've got that correct, haven't I?
that's pretty good. One thing that I don't know if you mentioned was that anger is evil.
Mhm.
Emotions are evil. The ego, the self that we identify with, that
Mhm.
you identify with, that I identify with, I call the live chat the snake pit, the commenters
Mhm.
identify with, that's evil, that judgment, that seeking after many schemes that man does and women do is evil. And that goes sort of along with the all thoughts are lies thing. But yeah, that's one issue that's very important and central, that's the sin in us, that evil identity that we identify with.
The
And
silent prayer, I think, and not over identifying with thoughts really has helped me. And it helps in order to create a more peaceful state of mind. Um, and really, that's a philosophy, a message that I've understood even before I tuned in and I heard Jesse Lee. But when I heard Jesse Lee Peterson say a lot of the similar things to what I've read, like I like to study Eastern Vedantic religious scripture texts, and the silent prayer to me is a form of meditation. Have you ever had anyone that has said that to you that, listen, this silent prayer is like meditation?
I have heard people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a Vedantic treatise called the Astavakra Gita, and let me just read out this short passage. Liberation is attained when the mind does not desire or grieve or feel happy or angry. That sounds like something you would hear from a Jesse Lee Peterson.
Repeat that.
Liberation is attained when the mind no longer desires, grieves, feels happy, or feels angry.
Nice.
And that's again, that's from the Astavakra Gita,
Yeah.
and it sounds like something you would expect to hear from Jesse Lee Peterson. And
Possibly.
yeah, but we wouldn't use the terminology liberation, but about the mind in terms of being free from desire, from happiness, from anger, and not identifying with it. That sounds like Jesse Lee Peterson. So when you just change some of the words there, there's that strain of, you know, thought or practice or meditation that runs through many overlaps with many forms of religion. I mean, have you ever heard of a priest called Miguel de Malonos?
Not that I can recall.
He was a Spaniard priest in the 1600s who was excommunicated from the Catholic Church because he practiced a form of prayer similar to the silent prayer. And Malonos said there are two types of prayer: one with words and sentiments, and the other of obscurity. And the first one is to gain souls, and the other one is to purify them. And again, it's that allusion to having a prayer where you don't really know what you're wishing for, where it's just full of sentiments, things that you want in the moment, and another form of prayer that is about purifying yourself, and it's not about wishing for anything. It's about purifying your soul. And again, that to me is like something that Jesse Lee Peterson would say, or I would expect to hear from yourself. And have you ever heard of, as you said, you haven't heard of Malonos, you haven't heard of Astavakra Gita, but that philosophy that you guys, don't want to use the word preach, is that acceptable to say that? Preach? Like, would you say that you preach that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's familiar to people around the world from, you know, Vedantic mystics to Sufis in Islam, to priests in the 1600s as really beneficial. And yeah, like, do you know where Jesse Lee Peterson learned that? Because I have noticed an evolution in his thoughts and his church and his message throughout years. I've seen videos of his going back way over a decade, and there has been an evolution there.
I have noticed. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know necessarily, but I have noticed that different things, either different themes or different things that are going on in my mind, in my life, I pick up on more from his message in recent years, and then in prior years, and then in the early years, that do develop and change. And I'm sure he goes through things and gains new wisdom. And he's talked with many, many, many people through counseling and his interviews on his radio show and his TV shows since 1990. So I'm sure that that he's open to learning even from his enemies, you know. And what you're talking about, it reminds me in the Bible that talks about people who never heard the law, yet they have the law of the heart within themselves because God made them. So God can communicate with them, you know. And so they naturally have a glimpse of a part of the truth. And so I love that because there's hope for that. That means that there's hope for everyone.
Yeah, it's a message that really resonates, even if you don't identify as Christian. And there's another thing about not even identifying as Christian.
Yeah,
you just love it.
Yeah, totally. Because there's people who are team Christian, and like you mentioned, that priest or whatever, that guy's Miguel, whom you mentioned, he may have been right, and the establishment threw him out. Like Jesus was right, and the establishment of his time threw him out and threw him to be crucified. And part of the reason the establishment did it is because they were judgmental. They were caught up in this team Pharisees or team Christian, and they were up on their high horse judging. And that's why I encourage people, don't be too quick to judge Elon Musk or Donald Trump or each other. Nick Fuentes, don't be team Nick Fuentes or team anti Nick Fuentes. You know, there's a lot of division that's just unnecessary. If you're just not really moved and you're still faithful to your friends and your enemies as a decent and honorable person, then life works itself out and you're a light in the world, I think.
Yeah. But again, not just with other people, but yourself. I mean, how many times have you looked back in your own life, and as you said, you alluded to the reason you have this disclaimer is because sometimes you say stuff or you've said stuff in the past, and you went, shit, why did I say that? You know,
right.
we all change. You know, you've got callers on your show who have in the past identified as communists and are no longer communists.
That's right.
Socialists, and you know, you were never a communist, you were never a socialist. You know, you're not even a Christian.
That's right.
Stop getting these ideas in your head and that you identify with the idea, and then that you become obsessive over that idea, and then you know you're wrapped up in it and it controls you. And that's one thing I really take from that the JLP network, yourself, Jesse Lee Peterson. But you know, don't get stuck in your thoughts. It's something that really does help. Hey, who's your favorite caller?
My favorite caller? Well, I call Maze my favorite caller. I haven't heard from her all month because she may be boycotting White History Month. She may even boycott Men's History Month, which is coming up come Friday. So I may not hear from her for a couple of months, but I used to call her my favorite caller facetiously. I was joking.
She's a woman that
found her annoying, but there's something about her that I can appreciate too. I
Yeah.
almost want to call it sweet, but she can be really nasty actually. So I don't want to be overly gracious to her or overly nice to her, but I do appreciate hearing from her. I really like talking with. There's a young man named Alex in California, San Diego, I think. I'm not sure, and he comes in with. Lately, he comes in with short, brief points and questions and clarity that really just cut through the crap. And he's probably my current favorite caller, honestly, at the moment, because he's seeing things sort of dispassionately, and he may have his opinions, but he's just calm and cool about it, and it sets a really good example, I think.
Right, before I let you go, I need to take a leaf out of the fallen state and put you on the hot seat.
All right, sounds good.
So, Hake, what is a woman?
A woman is a female lady, grown, who has decency and has a bit of decency in class and is checking herself, watching herself.
What is anger?
Anger is pride.
Are the moon landings real?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Really? Okay. Russia or Ukraine?
Oh man, Russia, easy, man. And I love Ukraine, but shout out, but Russia.
Does a giraffe have lips?
Yes, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Well done.
Ask me Israel or Palestine.
I think I know the answer to that one, but
You have to know
Israel or Palestine.
And I shout out to them.
Right.
But,
Well, Hake, it's been great having you on, and you know, it's been good to speak to you. And although I think it's 19, 20 hours I've been awake now, it was worth hanging on for. So thanks for being on the Caledonian Alexa, and I'll, be checking out the Hake report. If there's anything you'd like to promote or tell the audience about before you leave.
check out the Church with Jesse Lee Peterson and the Silent Prayer, like you mentioned, the Silent Prayer, rebuildingtheman.com/silent prayer and rebuildingtheman.com/church. And if you're ever in LA, you or any of your listeners, and you can get to either a men's forum first Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. at Bond in Los Angeles, typically, or women's forums third Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. at Bond in Los Angeles, and then stay through for church. Even if you're not Christian, you don't have to be Christian. I do recommend doing that if anybody can do that. I really like those meetings and the church services. And thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun, and I really appreciated meeting you. And it's been tough not being able to hear from Denny from Bulgaria and a lot of the overseas callers for whom Skype used to be an easy way to call in to our 888 radio show number. So I'm glad to talk with you, man. What an honor.
You have a Scottish caller, don't you? Someone.
Yeah.
I heard him before. His name was left me, but
I'm blanking on his name as well, but he was a regular, and now I can't really hear from him anymore unless he calls for. I think you have to pay international minutes or pay a Zoom. There's something called Zoom phone. But if you ever figure out a way for people to do it easily or cheaply, let me know. And if you ever can call in, you're welcome to. And I'm part Scottish myself, actually. My grandmother on my mother's side was Scottish, I think.
Yeah, but you've said something about the Irish not being really white. What was that? What was your reasoning behind that?
In America, the Irish come over here and they're Catholic. Meanwhile, the rest of America is normal Christian, which is to say Protestant, We're normal Christian. And so, and also the Irish, those who came over here were more prone to being drinking and doing a crime. And so they're kind of like the Italian in that they're criminal, they're drunk, and they're Catholic. Whereas, and so they have an identity with being Irish or being Italian. Whereas normal whites in America, we don't really have an identity with, oh, I'm Scottish or oh, I'm English. No, we're just American. But they have a distinct identity as themselves. And so I hold them at arm's length as being white enough to be hated. So I embrace them because I embrace the hated people. That's partly why I like Jews so much.
Do you have any Irish colours?
I have. In fact, the former communist, I think one of the former communists is Irish. And I don't know if I've heard from people from Ireland specifically. It's been a while, if so. But no, I jokingly say Irish are not necessarily white, but they're white.
Yeah. There's been so much blood mixing in the British Isles.
Yeah.
The Scottish and Irish are basically one people now.
I agree.
I'm half Irish, half Scottish myself. So it's our culture is so similar. The Celtic culture, it's you go down south and you've got Anglo-Saxon culture. In fact, you go down south, it's just a melting pot of Asians, Chinese, but London, it's not Caucasian. It's majority, Asian and East Asian. So Scotland is still predominantly Caucasian, but it is a mix between the Irish and, Picts.
My parents grew up in the same area that I grew up in, and when they grew up, it was mostly white and Hispanic. By the time I grew up, it was mostly Hispanic and Asian, and the white was a minority. So I didn't mind when I was a kid because I just was friends with whoever I grew up with. But I do see that the values are not normal, decent freedom values. The whites tend to have that freedom values thing and more civilized thing. And those people are more subject to anti-white and anti-freedom propaganda. And even our younger generations of the whites are subject to it. So it is a big shame what's going on to many parts of the world, but it's just reality. And
well, there's what you're saying there. I mean, there's that ghettoization of Europe, including the UK. So you go to a place like the Netherlands, and you get the native Dutch, but the other two big communities there are the Moroccan community and the Turkish community, and they all fight. And I lived in a Moroccan community, and because I was white and I lived with 3 other Dutch girls, my girlfriend was Dutch at the time. So, I got a lot of hate or I was liked by the community. It's the same thing with Germany. There's got a large Turkish community, a large Moroccan community. And as I was saying earlier, in Scotland and in Britain, you've got the Indian community and the Pakistani community. It's all broken up. It's ghettos now. And, there's no escaping it apart unless you go to Russia, where it's like just Russians.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is just like what JLP talks about, overcome anger so that you can get on with the world, the outside other people in the world as best you can, and deal with it without bringing more trouble on yourself than is necessary. Because the powers that be lick their chops when they see a white man get angry and get himself in trouble because of the injustices that they're doing to the white people and to people in general.
And
So
you should really look at it. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the Tavistock Clinic, but the Tavistock Clinic, back in the early 20th century, they really worked on creating new forms of social groups that you could divide society down the lines of, say, race, sex, and gender. And I know that's a big fault line in the United States, because you've got a large black community and Hispanic community. But I'm like you, man. I don't like to identify with my race, and that I feel antagonistic or have any negative sentiments or feelings towards any other group because they look differently. Because I mean, it's like shit. They can't help how they were born, and neither can we. So what's the point of identifying?
Exactly. And that is so white of you, honestly. I was thinking about how you were reading the Vedic scriptures that you were talking about, which is India, I believe. And so that is a white thing to be able to appreciate and accept truth or wisdom or value from other people from other places, and to explore and stuff like that, and to judge based on character rather than whatever, or just just be decent. And so shout out to the whites. That's nice. I like that.
Well, anyway, Hake, it's been good having you on.
Good to be on, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll catch you later, buddy. Right?
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.
Gold-pressed platinum, slip strips and bars. If you ever find some, you can lose it in quarks. Get a rack to Gino, spin the double wheel. Order a black hole, just depends how you feel. Yeah, it just depends how you feel. Gold-pressed platinum, you know it's a gas. Morn vomits it up into a tiny little glass. Liquid platinum, more you amass. Better than bronze, cobalt, silver, nickel or brass. Silver, nickel or brass. Living in a high society, living on station, part of the alliance, the United Federation, picking up the pieces from the Cardi occupation. You could be a Klingon with a genetic mutation, a symbiont Tandorian, a tortured Irish curly-haired Caucasian, waiting on the holosuite, playing a game of space dance. Really matters not, everyone is welcome in Quarks. Yes, everyone is welcome in Quarks.